Hello, thanks for joining us. This is Platform. I'm Ruth Aguele. Education, as stipulated, is an element of human evolution. From primary, secondary to tertiary level, it has the ability to shape destinies. But let's stay on the higher level of education, which has been described as the hub of nation building, national growth and development. To ensure quality tertiary education and the advancement of higher education for the future of the nation, the National Universities Commission, NUC, recently launched the new university academic curriculum known as the Core Curriculum and Minimum Academic Standards, CCMAS, which is expected to commence this September. Now, this is in line with the federal government's efforts to reposition and revitalize Nigerian universities. The CCMAS document is expected to guide institutions in the design of curricula for their programs, while bringing the necessary innovation into the content towards achieving the overall goal of education and training in the country. Now, this is intended to be a par with global perspectives that would equip graduates with the 21st century knowledge that transcends traditional boundaries. The Nigerian universities are expected to not only adapt the CCMAS, but to key fully into the dynamic features. But a lot of questions readily come to mind. What is unique and different about the new curriculum from the old one that has been tailored to meet the evolving demands of this rapidly changing world? How would the CCMAS be effectively managed and implemented across universities in the country? Well, we'll bring answers to that shortly, as we will be delving into the conversation looking at contemporary curriculum in tertiary institutions on the program. And our guest is Dr. Chris Mayaki. He's the Acting Executive Secretary in National Universities Commission. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Mayaki.
Thank you very much, Ruth, for this invitation.
You're welcome, sir. And before we introduce our panelists, we'll go through the profile of our guest. Dr. Christopher Mayaki holds a BSc in International Relations and Masters of Arts degree in International Law and Diplomacy. During the course of his career spanning over 3 decades, he attended several training programs within and outside the country, of course, such as the Oxford AED Bespoke programs on change management in higher education, university governance and leadership, as well as leadership in higher education. The specialized courses all tailored around the specifics of higher education management, regulation, and knowledge diplomacy. Dr. Mayaki has contributed immensely to the growth and development of tertiary education in Nigeria through high-profile projects he has championed. He joined the National Universities Commission, that's like nearly 31 years ago. He has participated in various ad hoc committees and panels set up to address specific problems, challenges in the Nigerian educational system. Dr. Mayaki represents the Nigerian University system on the FME Steering Task Team on COVID-19 in the education sector. He has also served on various state-fund committees, Standing Committee on Research and Development, as well as the Committee on the Review of Overseas Training Scholarships for Tertiary Education Staff. He has contributed in diverse works both locally and internationally tilted towards the advancement of educational system in the country. Dr. Mayaki was appointed as Acting Executive Secretary of the Commission in June, that was this year, early this year. All right, we'll leave it there, Dr. Mayaki. Very impressive, your profile. So let's introduce our panelists. We're privileged to have the head of education desk for us here in NTA, Rashidat Mustafa Olagunju. Thank you so much. I didn't forget your name, ma'am. See the look she gave me.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure. So, Dr. Mayaki, we're looking at contemporary curriculum in higher institutions or tertiary institutions, if you like. And so far, before we delve into the core curriculum, that's the CCMAS, it started way back in 1989 rather, when we had just the minimum academic standards. Then it moved to the benchmark minimum academic standards. That was in 2007, and now we're having something brand new for our tertiary institutions. So fill us in. What is different and unique about this one?
Well, let me re-echo the deep sense of gratitude that I feel, that we feel as a National Universities Commission for this opportunity for us to throw more light, to clarify the position as to what is different.
Okay.
Before I delve into the present, there is an adage that the past is in the eyes of the present, and probably the defining moment for the future. The National Universities Commission started in 1962, at that time as an advisory and administrative unit based in the Cabinet Office. But then it was to become a statutory commission in 1974 with the full powers to lay down minimum academic standards to ensure the orderly development of university education in the country. At the time the commission was established, we had just the University of Ibadan, having been an offshoot of the University of London in 1948. The University of Nigeria became the first indigenous university in 1960, taking a cue from the Michigan State University, the land-grant university based in the US of A. Subsequent to this, we had Ahmadu Bello University Zaria in 1962, University of Ife, which is today Obafemi Awolowo University, University of Lagos, and then the University of Benin, which also sprang out of the then Midwestern College of Technology. And then in the mid-70s, we had the Seven Sisters, Maiduguri, Kano, Sokoto, Jos, Ilorin, Port Harcourt, Calabar. In the early 80s, we had another stream of universities, specialized universities of agriculture, of science, of technology, and some state governments. Because education is on the concurrent list, federal governments, regional governments, state governments, spirited individuals are at liberty to go through the gamut of establishing universities. And in the whole of this evolution, the National Universities Commission has been saddled with a very strategic and very vital responsibility of its orderly development. And there is no way you can talk about quality assurance, coordination, orderly development without looking at the curriculum.
Yes.
Curriculum is the mainstay. It is that body of knowledge, those models, those methods and methodologies, content, philosophy. It encapsulates completely the learning experience from beginning till the end. And then subsequent to that, we had to introduce in 1989 for the first time the NUC under the then Executive Secretary Professor Idris Abdul Qadir, streamlined academic processes, guided the university system to bring it to global comparable standards. So we started in 1989 with the minimum academic standards. That has been adjudged to have been a very useful trailblazer. It started the journey for us. And then subsequent to that, we then had the benchmark minimum academic standards. And we went through that system because the mass had served its purpose creditably. Okay. But then, employers of labor, the academia, and all stakeholders were to point out some deficiencies, and that led to the benchmark minimum academic standards. And then during that intervening period, over the course of these years, with the labor market observatory, with inputs and comments from employers of labor, and guided by global best practices, we came to decision as the regulatory agency to update, to revise our curriculum. Because curriculum is dynamic, is evolutionary, it's not something that is static, it's something that must be seen to be in tandem with global best practices, with emerging issues in the place of work, etc., etc.
Okay,
and now talking about the gap between what are the new features. One of the major features of the core curriculum and minimum academic standards is the 70% and 30% dichotomy.
Okay.
We have had to compartmentalize. Hitherto, the NUC, working with the subject experts, will sit down and agree on the benchmark, and send it out 100% for universities to be guided and for them to implement. But then, like I said, curriculum is dynamic. We came to the decision that it is not fair for us to use a broad brush all the time, to paint everybody. So we compartmentalized. We allocated 70% to be minimum, but then there's also a 30% component, and that means universities now have the latitude, their liberty to populate, to constitute that that 30% in such a way that it will reflect their past, their present, and the future, and their subjective preference. And as I always said, if you take law at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, there will be some elements of Sharia, there will be some elements of Islamic law, but then if you go to Niger Delta, they may not be disposed due to cultural or historical factors to infuse Sharia or Islamic law in their law program. And therefore this will apply to all the other disciplines. Every university must, out of necessity, take a look at what is fit for purpose, what suits their future, their aspirations as an entity. And another component is the blended learning, because the pandemic, revealed a lot of infrastructural and human resource deficit.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm actually coming to that. I want to find out, is there a stipulated time for our curriculum to be reviewed? Then what are the, what would necessitate for our curriculum to be reviewed?
Well, the periodization or the frequency at which curriculum will be reviewed is not cast in stone. For accreditation, if you have full accreditation, we give you 5 years, under which we will come back to revisit. And curriculum ideally should be frequently, not to be left for too long. After 5 years, we should revisit and revise and update the curriculum.
So the CCMAS took more than 5 years?
It took more than 5 years,
definitely,
due to a combination of factors. This is one system that has suffered a lot of setbacks as a result of prolonged strikes. The COVID-19, impacted, the academic and administrative cultures and procedures in the university, and globally speaking, it was a major disruption, among other factors beyond our control. But there's this adage that it is better late
than never.
And we hope that the CCMAS itself will not take so long to be revisited, to be updated.
Dr. Mayaki, you mentioned features earlier at your opening remarks, and some of the features I discovered going through the CCMAS, interdisciplinary learning, soft and critical skills, development, entrepreneurship, and value creation, so to say. In terms of, the effective implementation in these universities, it looks very attractive. I like the fact that entrepreneurship skills are being, incorporated into the curriculum. In terms of implementation, what is expected of these universities if this must be achieved?
Yes, what is expected of the universities, and how prepared is NUC to ensure strict implementation?
Compliance, so
yes.
to say.
Well, thank you very much. I was just noting this point again. Well, like I mentioned in my introductory remarks, the whole gamut of consummating benchmark or minimum academic standards is not left to the NUC alone. We do this in a multi-stakeholder platform.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the CCMAS, for instance, we have had to send out the BMAS to the universities. We collated and harvested their comments as to what they adjudged to be deficiencies, identified deficiencies. Yeah. We also asked the universities to set up their nodal points for driving this process. And mind you, the Senate takes preeminence on any academic matters, examinations, mounting programs, accreditation, resource verification. And then we were to also broaden consultation by involving the academies, the Academy of Science, the Academy of Letters, Academy of Education, Academy of Engineering. We also involved the professors, the academics in this process. We shared best practices to be obtained from other climes, because the university enterprises are not one that is resting on his own cocoon. You must be seen to be one, part and parcel of the global movement. Therefore, the implementation arrangement will follow this same procedure. First and foremost, from now henceforth, the CCMAS will be the reference point. It's like the mini Bible or the mini Quran, where the various features of that program define the philosophy, those concomitants that must bring about effective and efficient learning outcomes. It will be used as a reference point for any intending program. Any university that is intending to mount any program must go back to rule number 1. The CCMAS will be your guiding, it will be your guide, or the driving belt, as it were. And then it will be the reference point for our, accreditation process, for our resource verification. For you to mount any program in any Nigerian university, you must have recourse to the National Universities Commission. And that means we have to empanel experts and academics to go and look at the quantity and the quality of materials, learning resources available, that entire gamut, that ecosystem for learning. And that's it. And then we have a flourishing, a virile monitoring and evaluation directorate that will go back and forth with a checklist, with parameters for compliance, conformity or otherwise. And there are, sanctions, in each. After every process, there's a technical report, there's an outcome statement that will either generate a reward system or there will be sanctions. And then feedback from employers of labor will be such, that will be the watershed because they're the people that will tell us the utilitarian value, implicit in training a Nigerian graduate using the CCMAS. But like I said, it is one of our flagship projects that we're so signature innovation as a regulatory agency that we're proud of, that we have gotten to the point of no return, and where there's a promising opportunity that it will be a huge success, because there's a feedback system, there is a modus operandi, there's a mechanism that will guide us, and universities and all stakeholders are at liberty to give us a feedback. Even the university system itself, the graduates themselves can look back and say, hey, we have done well in this area, and this is the area where we need to adjust and amend. It is a very dynamic, it's a system that is open to input and remediation and improvement where we find necessary and constructive.
Okay, Doctor, I want us to talk more on the state or role of entrepreneur and skill acquisition in this new curriculum. What's the emphasis on it?
Over the years, and as the knowledge-driven global economy evolved, every system will pause and take a look at the attributes of its graduates. And we have had a labor market observatory under which auspices employers of labor pointed out deficiencies, those attributes that are lacking in a Nigerian graduate, soft skills, basic functional attributes were found to be missing. And this is why at that time, and then the issue of employability, the mismatch between strictly academic, conceptual training
and practical
and real life experience.
Yes.
And this is not only restricted to Nigeria. This is a world, this is a globalized phenomenon that every country has had to take stock of its graduate, the caliber, the profiling. They need to reprofile their graduate, and that is what informed the decision for us to now mainstream, entrepreneurship. We have had to, come into an agreement. We signed an MOU with the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and we came up with a triple helix. The triple helix, philosophy and practice, and it is that convergence of industry, academia, and government, and other stakeholders, and to say, hey, for us to make our graduates employable, we need to infuse certain features. And that is why you will see that entrepreneurship, that ability for the Nigerian graduate to be an employer of labor, rather than waiting all the time for government,
yes,
that ability to make profit, to set up, enterprises, startups, to make himself more useful. Take the medical doctor, for instance. Imagine a situation where a medical doctor has a fusion of strictly medical education and business acumen, and that means he's going to grow his business. He will succeed. He's on a better pedestal. He's not strictly medically educated, but he's also brought up and trained
not waiting for white collar job.
Not waiting for white collar job. He can expand, the frontier of medical practice. He can do certain things on his own. Look at the issue of pharmacy, rather than being strictly a pharmacist, you can also look at the other things.
Business side of it.
Business side of it.
Okay,
look at lawyers. Lawyers can, they can promote, their practice in such a way that they can make money, make profit genuinely.
Dr. Mayaki, you make it sound so juicy. It's really a comprehensive curriculum from what you're dissecting for us here. And I know there's been a push, to have African graduates be employable. That is in line with the 2063 agenda. But there's a but. Now, it's one thing to have this curriculum at its core. It's another thing to have the students, key into the different programs that will be introduced. There's already this mentality or orientation of, I'm going into the university, this is what I want to study. Those are the core courses they're already familiar with. Now I'm talking about undergraduates. How will universities ensure that, undergraduates see the need to adapt, to be exposed to this new curriculum?
Well, every new experience begets retooling, capacity building, training and retraining, and this is one aspect of the implementation arrangement of the CCMAS. There will be, at the local level, a training procedure for the academics. We intend to deploy new pedagogical skills. The art of teaching itself is not static. It must respond to changes.
Because there will be increase in demand for the lecturers.
Yes, there will be. And then the attitudinal change.
Yes.
Sometimes when you introduce new things, you have to change the attitude, the mentality of people involved. You need to provide the ecosystem, the training and retraining. Mind you, entrepreneurship is embedded, is streamlined under each, program. You have a component of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is not about making soap, or gardening. You're talking about critical thinking. You're talking about that level of, knowledge that will allow you to think
outside
out of
the
the
box.
box.
Your IQ.
Yeah, your IQ, It is that will stimulate you, that will bring the best out of you.
Yes.
You know, positive change, you know, that will be, you know, be extracted out of you. So we have those implementation arrangements, and University Senate, university authorities are now obligated to galvanize the system, to introduce training and retraining sessions. You know, there will be an orientation. The models are carefully, you know, conceived, well conceived, and as I mentioned, the beauty of the CCMAs or any curriculum making process is the involvement of all the academics. You know, we don't sit at the National Universities Commission to pontificate. No, we involve them from day one up initial throughout this gamut of, you know, prescribing and consummating the curriculum. We have had to involve the universities, the Senate, the deaneries, the departments, the academics, you know, all the subject experts are drawn from the academia, from the academies, you know, from our sister regulatory agencies. We have also had to harvest best practices, what is obtainable in other climes in Africa, in Asia, in North America, in South America. It's an entire gamut that started from 2018 and which was finally launched on the 5th of December 2022 by the then Vice President, Professor Osibanjo.
Okay, Rashida.
Okay, now let's move away a bit from the CCMAs. Let's talk about carrying capacity. Yes, we've always talked about carrying capacity in our tertiary institutions, but some people are of the opinion that, okay, the institutions that we have on ground, what's the percentage of their performance? Are they at par with what is required? Instead of creating or giving accreditation to more institutions, why don't we just bring those ones up?
Well, thank you very much. I know the concern you have expressed. We have been, our attention is one matter that has continued to engage the minds of policymakers, university leaders, the National Universities Commission over the years. Should we stop recognizing and approving new universities, or should we proceed, you know, with retaining what we have? The answer is no. You know, massification of universities is a global practice. I told you that we started with University of Ibadan in 1948, University of Nigeria in 1960, and Nsukka in the early 60s. But if you take the population bracket of Nigeria, 200 million plus, Nigeria is the only country that is highly undersubscribed. Brazil has over 1,000 universities. The United States of America, which is about 300 million, has over 5,000 universities. Okay? If you take Russia, you know, they have, you know, many universities. If you take Indonesia, slightly higher than Nigeria in population, okay, they have many universities. You don't want to talk about China and India, where, you know, those ones are in the billions. Okay? So for us, we are duty bound as a matter of deliberate policy to continue to expand, you know, quality university education. And I want to say this, if you take the statistics, and I'm sure you are aware of this, every year nearly 2 million Nigerian children, prospective undergraduates, you know, are applying to go to university. But the 269 universities put together can only accommodate between 500 and 700,000. That leaves a huge chunk, a huge gap between demand and supply.
Let me hold your thoughts
and
there,
then you don't want to.
No, we have to take this break.
No, I know you don't want to know the anguish.
Okay.
You know, the passion on the faces of the students and the faces of the parents.
We'll be back.
All we need to do.
We'll pick up with this conversation.
Thank you very
Just
much.
hold it there.
Thank you.
Let's take this break. We're back.
What are we doing as a nation to first of all settle our teeming populace, especially the
NTA's political package with a third eye on the nation's political scene. I am Fisa Ogunfuyi. Welcome.
You have to be very careful giving space to people who are obviously sponsored to further the agenda of some other groups.
There's a lot of questions. A lot of questions in a closed door sessions. Some of these issues, some of the problems bedeviling of their.
In fact, between June 1st and July 17, 19-point-something billion has left the coffers of the NDDC.
I can say my constituency, they need everything because we don't have anything.
Thanks for being there. The conversation is still on contemporary curriculum in tertiary institutions, of course, for Nigeria. And Dr. Mayaki, before we took that break, you were sharing with us the passion of which these students who want to get into the university and the parents share. And if we're looking at the ratio, 269 universities compared to the more than 200 million Nigerians in terms of the population, there is a gap. And now the gap is not just in the ratio we're looking at. There's a gap of infrastructure. There's a gap of technological advancement in our universities. Rashida mentioned the whole, can we stop there and rejig the system we already have? Because it's not about quantity, but quality.
No, thank you very much.
Okay.
As I said, the answer is no.
Okay.
It's not to stop approving new universities. Mind you, if you look at the statistics, there are 269 universities. 61 are owned by the federal government. 62 are owned by the state governments. 146 are private. Now, the 146 private universities, their enrollment, total enrollment is about 10%. Because they don't start on the same scale like the Ahmadu Bello University, like University of Ibadan. No, they're given, there's a threshold. It's an incubation period. They must grow, they must mature. I want you to get that. There's a stepping stone that they must follow. So when you hear 146, I told you that 146 put together only account for 10% of the enrollment. Okay? And that means they don't just start at one fell swoop. No. Mind you, one of the Ivy League institutions in the world today is Harvard. Harvard started with 8 students, 16 something, and today they have stuck to their, to a certain threshold that they've told themselves, look, we've gotten to this threshold, we're not going to go beyond this, we'll intensify, we'll become a center of excellence. That's Harvard, okay? But I agree with you that massification also begets, there has to be something responsive, to respond to the increasing number of universities. One of the things I think for us to pay attention to is our regulatory ambit. We must strengthen our regulatory ambit so that that notion of quality,
That's part of your purview.
Yeah, that is it. That's what I'm saying. So we need to strengthen that. We need to make sure that we strengthen the National Universities Commission to cope with this ever-expanding university landscape in terms of training, in terms of our quality assurance instruments, infrastructure, funding, the university enterprise. The university is a unique animal, proverbially speaking. It's not like a secondary school, it's not like a primary school, it's not a kindergarten. It is that special, unique animal that deals with critical thinking at the highest level, research, teaching, learning, and community action, So we need to, upgrade infrastructure, whether it is privately owned, whether it is owned by the state government. Sustainability, the corresponding staffing situation has to be raised. Training at the doctoral level for you to pursue research, at that level, and postgraduate studies. You need, the requisite number of staff, the full complement of staff to be able to drive this system. But it's not a matter of stopping. No. Stopping will amount to, it's like a newlywed, telling them not to have children. You know, can you imagine that? So we just need to keep expanding, but also keep quality assuring, making sure that.
Are you making recommendations, talking about the commission, in terms of quality check?
Oh yeah.
As part of your monitoring report.
If you look at sub-Saharan Africa, if there's any country that has one of the most robust quality assurance regime, you know, for university education is Nigeria. We helped Namibia to set up their own quality assurance agency. Nigeria helped even Kenya. You know, they came here to understudy us. Ghana. Nigeria has one of the most robust, you know, quality assurance culture and regime because it has definite consequences. If a university or a program is seen to be persistently non-performing, the consequences are there. For instance, if you take accreditation, if we visit you and you have denied accreditation, there are definite consequences, there are repercussions. We will suspend you know, admissions into that program for the next academic session. If you have interim accreditation, there are consequences. We'll give you, you know, a period of remediation following which you come back after a couple of years. But if you have back-to-back denied accreditation, you may as well consider yourself as having failed, you know, interim. If you have back-to-back interim, you are, you know, considered to have had a denied accreditation, and there are consequences. You know, so we are conscious of our responsibility and quality. The notion that the programs, our operations must be seen to be operating at full strength, you know, is one value that is shared among university staff within the university community. Is a value system that we want universities to take ownership. They don't even have to wait for the National Universities Commission. You know, it's like your toilet.
Dr.
You don't need
Chris,
to wait for
let's talk
NUC or any visitor to come before you put your toilet in order.
Okay.
Let's talk about funding. Funding of public tertiary institution in Nigeria. Can federal government alone bear the burden? Because recently we've been having a series of unrest in some of our institutions regarding increase in tuition fee. What's the role of the parent in this?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rashida. I think it is incontrovertible, and it is a stark reality that training a graduate, you know, if you take a graduate of medicine or architecture or biochemistry or in the humanities, you know, or education, we all agree that there are costs, you know, implicit in training this graduate. But I think the bone of contention is whose responsibility is it? You know, who should bear the full responsibility for the training of a medical doctor? You know, we over the years, it has not been easy, you know, and it has nothing to do with Nigeria alone. There is no such university system that is self-sufficient all over the world. If you take a typical university in the US, if they have a budget of $3.something billion, the federal government, you know, will subvent a fraction, and the university is left on its own to source for the rest, either through endowments,
research,
alumni research, you know, patents, commercialization of patents, university corporations, endowments, etc., etc. Some universities even own airports in the US of A. They own university hotels, university enterprises. They have to think out of the box. This is one matter that is a recurring decimal. And I think that we have gotten to the trajectory in the debate for us as a nation to muster the political will, you know, to decide what to do with the funding of education, because we don't want to just survive as a university enterprise. We want to function. We want quality. We want reputation of our universities to be comparable with their counterparts around the world. And it is not before me at this, you know, meeting to tell you where the country should go, but we have gotten to that trajectory where we must, parents, stakeholders alike, government, spirited individuals must answer the question, whose business is it to effectively and efficiently, train a medical doctor? Should it be left to government alone? Government is struggling with many other competing demands. Security in the northeast, in the northwest, in the north central, there are pockets of insecurity all over the country. Health issues, natural disasters, sports, all kinds of demands, competing demands on the same federal government of Nigeria. Is it feasible? Is it practical?
Is it sustainable?
Is it sustainable?
Yes.
So,
because,
but then it is also important for us to pause. And I don't think it is a system that should be pontificated. I think we need to negotiate. What we think is appropriate, is fit for purpose, is not prohibitive, is affordable. This is the conversation that we must open up in a multi-stakeholder, consultative, humanistic fashion, so that we don't have a backlash, we don't have a ripple effect. But I think it is incontrovertible that we've gotten to that stage, that we need to begin to think about. Take University of Lagos, for instance. University of Lagos spends 180 million on power monthly.
I'm just
and
about
that
to talk
means
about that.
They need about 1.something billion.
Doctor, are you aware that at a certain time, not too long ago, a university in the north the students were at home for over a month due to lack of power.
And it's my alma mater.
Yes, due to lack of power. Then again, it brings to mind, we talked about endowment fund. We talk about research. Such universities, what are they doing? Are they not harnessing this? Then our industries and well-to-do individuals in the society, are they actually doing the right thing? Or let me say, are they assisting in any form?
Thank you very much, Rashida. Thank you, Ruth. Again, as I said, every generation must, out of relative obscurity, take stock of its fortunes. The past, as I said, is in the eyes of the present and the future. We have gotten to that defining moment, that we must, our universities must be sensitized. Our universities must begin to look out of the box. As a university, you exist to conduct research.
Yeah.
That is the mission of a university, to interrogate, to advance the frontier of knowledge.
Yeah.
And, begin to, commercialize, patent, your research findings, and begin to make money for the universities. The universities must answer the question, are they fulfilling this mission?
Yes, because
universities,
Tech Fund is doing a lot in that area.
Yes, but there's a limit to how much.
It seems as if the universities on their own.
So universities, there's some universities that are doing very well. We used to have the NURESDEF, which is an annual research fair, and it will be heartwarming for you to see the research output. But there comes in the private sector. Are they there to support university findings, university, research outputs? We need to prick the conscience of the captains of industry. Our organized private sector, as you alluded to, must be seen to be partnering. And this is where the triple helix, idea came about. That handshake between the academia, the commanding heights of the economy, and government and other stakeholders. We need to begin to sensitize our universities. We need to, expose them to the best practices. It was not the same 10 years ago. Some universities have gone very far. If you see some universities, Bayero University kind of did very well. They invited the Angotes, University of Lagos, their alumni, come back. If you go to University of Nigeria, Obafemi Awolowo University, University of Ibadan, University of Jos, the alumni come back to, construct buildings. They endow chairs, they fund, they provide scholarship opportunities, etc., etc. but that is just like a drop in the ocean. You know, our well-to-do need to put in more money into education, because like we rightly agree, it is too Herculean a task to be left in the hands of one individual, one
I like
government.
The fact, Dr. Mayaki, you've pointed out that this is a conversation that should be brought to the open, and it's long overdue actually. Beyond having these private sector come into the system, we're seeing what state universities are doing. Part of the responsibility or mandate rather for the NUC is to also make some of these recommendations to the universities. How far has the commission gone in that regard?
We're not bereft of our responsibilities to stimulate, to draw attention on the need for the adequacy or otherwise of funding. Each time we had an opportunity with the state governor, we make it a point of duty. I visited, in the course of the past 6 weeks, I've been to Osun, Delta, and one other state, and I always use the opportunity to remind state governments that have established state-owned institutions to ensure that they provide the requisite funding. They make sustainability arrangements so that universities don't go.
It shouldn't be lopsided.
Cup in hand. You know, and university is not one project that you start and stop.
Yes.
It is ad infinitum. You know, so we have always advocated if there's any champion of adequate funding and sustainable funding, it is the National Universities Commission, because we're in a nodal point. We're in that strategic position to be the ones to advocate, to champion sustainability, you know, to universities. And talking about the increment, you know. We want to use this opportunity to remind federal universities that tuition, you know, is the tuition-free policy of government is very much in force. Government has not, adjusted the tuition-free policy, but what we have continued to see, is a spate of introduction of charges by universities
as a strategy,
as a strategy to as a stopgap measure, to meet up with the ever increasing operational cost.
That's what I want to say.
But we also owe the duty for them to have a human face, not to make it impossible for students that are there now, to continue, their studies, because there are indigent students that their income bracket, their purchasing power
Let's
is not
hope
there.
that the student loan, the
will
federal
do something.
government
We hope.
Because not too long ago,
the promise.
I had a conversation with a VC, and he was telling me that the subvention he receives from the federal government could barely cover the power,
the bills,
the energy bill. So now he's not talking about water,
direct teaching cost,
then water, security, and maintenance of the premises. Now, where would he get money for every other requirement to have a comfortable environment for the students? So I think, as you rightly said, we need to really bring this to the table and chart a way forward.
What about the area of trust fund?
Trust fund?
For universities, like can the universities
like
come
endowment?
Up, yes,
endowment,
can they come up with trust
university,
fund?
they are aware, but it's not that the universities are bereft of those ideas. It is, like I said, it is causal. There's a causal relationship between the academia and the private sector. We need to also speak to the private sector.
To come to the table?
Yes, to come to the table. To prick their consciences.
Yes.
We need to bring them to the table so that they can also see the common good, in contributing their own quota. It's not to be left in the hands of government alone. Like I told you, government has other competing demands. So the conversation continues. The students' loans, promises to be one veritable tool of mitigating, as it were.
Okay, Dr. Chris Mayaki, we have to leave this conversation here. There's a whole lot, but in few words, we have to round up.
Let him quickly talk
words,
about how are we going to harmonize this timetable in our universities caused by the strike and COVID.
Okay.
Now we have different timetables.
We have to leave it there. And Dr. Mayaki, you have to look for a way to incorporate the future of our universities. In few seconds, I don't know how you want to do that. Just tell us.
The future of universities?
Yes, and what she just asked you. Very briefly. We have to.
The Nigerian university enterprise, hitherto, from time immemorial, has enjoyed those glorious days. And I'm telling you that one of the things that will be very saddening is for us to lose hope, either as a university brand or as a country. And therefore, if there is any subsector that holds a lot of promise for the future, is the Nigerian university system. One of the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, I must say this, at the time the United Kingdom was exiting the European Union, there was a lot of divide, there was a lot of hue and cry. But it was at that defining moment that the then Prime Minister of the United Kingdom boasted to the nation and retorted that if the United Kingdom was to lose everything, the United Kingdom will fall back on its university system to reinvent the country. And that's the promise that the university system, holds, is that peculiar, that unique constituency that is at the heart of our opportunities as a country.
We know that's the hope for national development.
Yes, so
Thank you so much.
We will, engage stakeholders, government, private sector, spirited individuals, so that we can make sure that this system survives. Because
thank you very much,
no
Dr. Mayaki. I could feel your passion.
There's no option.
Let's hope that the dream is alive. Let's hope that our universities become, a par with what is obtained in the global world. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris Mayaki. He's the Acting Executive Secretary for National Universities Commission. Thank you for your time. And well done to the good job you're doing.
Thank you. And you too for the great job. Thank you, Rashida. Thank you for the, the great crew. And we hope that together we will take this country to the enviable position that it rightly belongs.
Yes, indeed.
And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Rashidat Mustafa Olagunju, our head of education desk here in NTA. It's such a pleasure to have you on platform.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So the conversation has been on contemporary curriculum in tertiary institutions. We hear that a core curriculum, that's the CC-MAS that has been introduced, has the ability to shape the future of the education sector. We'll put our eyes on the prize, and that's platform. Ruth Aguele. Bye.